Hey, you know what's better than one game room tour? 3 game room tours. And that's what we do here. We look at pictures or videos of other people's collections. We find cool ideas for our own collections, as well as just cool items and stuff in those collections to take a look at along the way. This is Game Room Tours. Let's take a look. So before we get started today, I definitely wanted to let you guys know this isn't a gated activity. This is something that anyone can do that watches the channel. Just go and check out the link in the description. There's a video there that explains exactly how you can go about sending in videos or pictures of your collection. And be sure to subscribe to the channel so that you can catch all these game room tours and catch yours when it shows up in the series. So the first collection that we have that came in today actually comes in from Joe over at Cinco Play Retro Gaming. I've talked about a lot of his stands in the past, and you could tell by his collection that he is definitely committed to displaying his games. Now Joe's space is really interesting. He's got it kind of divided up into kind of a modern space and a retro space. I'm going to start off with the modern side here, but right away you can see how open and bright this space feels in this modern environment. He's got a couple different televisions in here that kind of are lining the walls, one of which has the wires completely disappear behind the wall. I don't see where those are coming through on top, so I assume he's kind of got them in the wall behind there and kind of coming out the bottom behind his TV stand in order to go to his actual consoles and power. Now at a glance, I would say most of the furniture in this room does come from Ikea, so keep that in mind. If you do see something in here you're interested in, you could probably just browse an Ikea catalog and pick it out from taking a look there. Now starting off at the far left, you have this gigantic Wreck-It Ralph poster. These remind me a lot of the days when I was a projectionist at a movie theater. We used to go home with this kind of big poster and these giant standees and extra trailers that were on reels and all this really cool stuff. So I imagine he kind of went about it that way somehow. But to the right of that, he has another very large shelf, and this is going to be really the main big console shelf. This has your PlayStation 4 and Xbox games all kind of lining it in a really awesome way. When you look at these PlayStation 4 games, you can see how cool these Cinco Play stands really are. I've talked about them a lot in the past. I have a ton of videos on Cinco Play Retro Gaming's display stands and how good they are and what they can be used for. And I think his collection in itself is designed in a way that makes it perfect for the situation. But the cool side of tiering anything and giving these levels to all these games is that you get to see the title of the game, a little bit of the artwork, and you just get a lot more depth to your collection in general than just throwing the spines up on there. But yeah, that shelf looks absolutely stunning with all those tiered displays. It's just amazing. And then you have a few odds and ends down below to kind of fill out the space and give it a little bit more depth down there as well. On top of that shelf, he has a few boxes for special editions and other big box items that he has from his collection. And again, that's the thing that a lot of us just can't avoid, is a place to put these awesome boxes that have amazing art on them. It usually ends up being the tops of our shelves. It's one of those things that I'm always looking for ideas on. But moving to the right from that, at the very top above the TV, you can see some floating shelves there. These are some more Ikea floating shelves, and he's actually turned them upside down for very specific reasons. You see these shelves have a little lip in the front that's designed to kind of be an easel stand for whatever it is you put on the shelf, and if you turn it upside down, that little lip can carry a different purpose, and that's kind of covering up a bunch of LED lights. I'll also point out that this isn't just one continuous shelf up there as well. It's actually 2 different shelves. It looks like he had a smaller one and a larger one and kind of combined them. You can barely see a little line on the right side there where he's connected them, but he's kind of put them together in such a way that you don't quite notice, which is pretty cool. And moving down from there, you have this giant TV screen. This thing is beautiful. You can see in this video that he sent how good it's looking. It's got these tiny mini bezels at the sides. It's looking perfect, like a picture frame on the wall. And again, because he's kind of hidden those cords that would be coming out of it, it really blends into the space and looks proper for its area. And down below that, he's got a relatively simple TV stand. He's got a couple controller chargers up there / display stand. It's always good to get a charger that you think looks good. But in his TV stand, he's got 3 of these kind of blue cubes, which blends really well into the white space. I think this kind of baby blue blends really well with white. And then of course, he's got a few different consoles in there. That's all his modern consoles, kind of finishing off this whole idea of it being the modern side of his game collection. Now moving to the right side shelf, this is Nintendo Switch. This shelf is just straight up Nintendo Switch, totally laid out for only Nintendo Switch, period. And I think it does a great job of kind of showing that off. I mean, you have a bunch of Nintendo Switch games, again, on those tiered shelves, which makes them look super awesome. I mean, you're really gonna have a collection that looks totally different than somebody else's if you are tiering your games as opposed to showing those spines. And it really shows in this example. And then below those two shelves where he's putting those tiered games up there, he's got another shelf where he's showing off the spines, as well as another shelf where a bunch of games are being tiered, and then finally showing off a shelf where he's got a couple more plushies down there to kind of balance out both sides. And then we get further right in this room and you find out that there's this other TV on the wall. And not only is it another TV, and not only is this space a modern gaming space, but this space itself is a modern couch co-op room from the future. This is the way, if you want to play couch co-op with a friend when you have two different modern consoles and you want to play together, this is the ultimate experience for that. Essentially, the TV on the right-hand side is designed to be able to pivot from the wall and angle towards the couch. So you'll have the main large TV there kind of focused on the couch, and you have this one angled towards the couch as well. You both can sit on the couch, you can both play on your modern consoles on those two different internet lines, and you can be rocking and playing whatever games that are out today that don't happen to have a built-in couch co-op, unfortunately. And you could play those guys together, couch co-op style, and still get that awesome experience that I think a lot of people are lacking today. Now you'll notice that this second TV also has its cord kind of covered up here. I think he's got one of these loose fabric cord coverings there. I think he probably did that because either he couldn't put this one into the wall, or the fact that when it rotates from the wall, it just causes a lot of strain on those cords and didn't want to go that extra bit to kind of be wiggling those cords all the time. But generally, I just love this idea of couch co-op still existing in the modern age for these games that don't have it built in. I think it's a fantastic idea. I still play couch co-op with my wife. We have two different screens and we play together. It's nowhere near as cool looking as this. Now above that TV, there is also more of those floating Ikea shelves up there. And again, they are turned over and they have those awesome LEDs kind of hidden behind that little notch there. And what he's used these for is Amiibo. So there is a ton of Amiibo crossing this shelf, and he even has ceiling lights kind of pointed down at where the Amiibos are. I'm not sure if I got a picture of when those lights are actually on to show off the Amiibo, but if I do, I will definitely place it into the video. But it must look amazing to see all those Amiibo lit up there at the top. Now I can see I'm running out of time for this collection specifically, but I did want to touch on the other side of his collection at least quickly so that I could go over a few different things. I really want to dive back into this collection at a later date and kind of go over this side of the collection in detail because there's so many little things going on. But boom, this thing comes in, and here is the retro side of the collection. He's got tons of shelves, and this one is totally different feeling, has a totally different vibe. It's much kind of more packed in feeling than the other collection with the white shelves. This one is darker, has a very smaller feeling, a much more tighter packed kind of comfy experience. But peeking around just this part of the room is insane to go over all the different things here. You can see that he's got his tiered games all over the shelves. Super Famicom, Super Nintendo. You've got everything going on in here. N64, there is just so many different things on these shelves. He's got an upper lining of shelves up at the top that are LED lit as well, and those have little trinkets and items laid out there for your viewing pleasure. And before I finish up talking about Cinco Play's collection, let's zoom out to get a real good perception of what this space is, and it's way more than it seems from that photo. Wow, you zoom out and you have so many games in this collection. This collection has thousands of video games. It's insane. You can see that top shelf that's lit up there goes around the entire space in this kind of S shape around the back there. I really like how those top three shelves are laid out. You get to see a lot of the game art. He has the top of the shelves itself, the bookshelves. He has a place for putting all of his odds and ends, and it's a lot of shelf space. It goes around the entire room, so it's ample amount of space to put those weird little odds and ends, few figures here and there. This is very impressive to me. It's an amazing collection. It's another one that I'm going to definitely talk about again in the future, just running out of time for this collection today because there's just so many things going on. But yeah, that collection is outstanding. I'm super impressed and very happy to have had it on Game Room Tour, so thanks to Joe for sending that in. So moving right into the next game room, we have a awesome game room from JK79 that was sent in fairly recently, and this game room has a super modern vibe. I mean, just in this first photo, you can kind of see that he's got this nice balance between blue and this red that's kind of around the room. I think it's a red, orangish red, but it works really well together. These colors complement each other properly, and he's got the right amount of diffusion going on, which makes it flood the area with a lot of light. You don't have any direct LED to eyeball interaction, which is fantastic, and he's just nailing the vibe completely. And this is one of the only photos you really get to take a good look at this neon red kind of squiggle above the television back there. I love it. I think it's a really cool piece of his space. I've never seen it in another game room. I think it adds to his collection as a whole and balances out that blue a little bit more. You can see those little red spots all over the place in there, kind of balancing out the blue and the red. And that squiggle across the top there is just awesome. Makes this collection very much his. Now we get to another angle of the room and you have a better idea of what this layout looks like when it's not dark. He's got very bright walls, and that's another reason that diffusion works really good, because those white walls and shelves and all of that really carries that light a lot further than, say, a black wall or black shelving. He's got a nice little love seat couch sitting there, and a really cool coffee table as well. This coffee table looks like something out of the future. It either has two stacks of LEDs kind of inside of it or something, but it gives it this kind of infinity vibe. You can look into it and just see those LEDs repeating as you look down into it. Really cool piece to have in a game room like this. Another nice talking piece for somebody when they come in to take a look at this really cool, you know, gap in your house, this cool coffee table that turns into an infinity hole in the middle of the floor. But he also has a nice big TV, and that big TV is on top of a kind of very simple and thin TV stand. He's got a few different consoles on top of and underneath of this as well, including a PS5. You can see that he's got it mounted in there sideways, which is not the typical way I see these out there, and I think it looks pretty good for the space. This actually inspired me to take my PS5 and put it sideways in my own game collection, and I think it works really well, and it actually fits into a lot more spaces than I expected originally. Now moving to that back corner there, you can see he's got one of these kind of half shelves kind of tucked into the corner. I think that's a really good use of a space back there, is taking one of these thinner shelves and kind of tucking it in there. And he's got an awesome Transformers figure just kind of standing up there looking really cool. Still has the blue LED back there, back behind him when the lights are all on regardless, and you can tell it still shows when the lights are all on in the room. So it's worthwhile. And down below him, you can see he's got some Xbox games, Nintendo Switch games, a few Wii U games, and PS3 games also on this shelf. And I think it looks pretty fantastic. This is a great place to put a few extra little games to quickly grab, put into your consoles, and get playing on that big TV. Now to the right of that shelf, you can see the start of a floating shelf, and we have a better photo showing a couple of these floating shelves in the space. And he's using these floating shelves for a few different consoles and some boxed Super Nintendo games, along with a couple other little figures and odds and ends as well. I always like to see these kind of floating shelves kind of taking up this space. You can imagine this space completely devoid of these shelves, and I think this area here would be totally different than what it would be now. And then down below those floating shelves, he's got a couple of these 2x2 cube style shelves, but what it looks like he's using these for is for his consoles. Outside of the ones that are inside his main console, it looks like these ones are either just charging here or also hooked up to the TV via cord, kind of going around the edge of the bottom of the room there. And holy cow, he's got that Capcom fight stick there, dude. That's pretty awesome. And on the cube style shelf that's on the right side, he's got a couple cable guys as well. It's pretty awesome to see a lot of people buying into cable guys as time goes by, because that means we're gonna get more of them from different IPs. Maybe someday we'll get Nintendo ones, you never know. And then to finish up this right side of the room, he also has another shelf that is a ton of PlayStation games on it, as well as other stuff. There's figures, there's this really cool PlayStation light. I just recently got one of these myself because it was on sale recently, and they look fantastic in these darker spaces. You put them there and you get all those PlayStation symbols kind of poking out at you. It looks awesome. And then what sticks out like a sore thumb here is that PlayStation 5 box. Holy cow, man. I have no place to put this PlayStation 5 box. You think the PlayStation 5 is big? That box itself is a humongous undertaking to display or do anything with. And then moving over to the left side of the space, a totally different area, we have these cube style shelves here with a mini arcade sitting on top of them, which is super cool. I'm definitely right now looking into mini arcades. But not only is this side hold the little mini arcade and these cool cube style shelves that have PlayStation games, it also has a lot of the retro games in this bigger shelf in the corner here, which also has that blue backlighting to it as well. He's just got an endless amount of retro video games sitting on this shelf. But one thing that he did a little bit special that I think is kind of nice is taking a few different games and putting them out at the edge of the shelf on a 45-degree angle and really giving them the light of day to be seen by people who would be in the room generally sitting on the couch. That's going to be the most seen piece by those people. But just going back and doing a kind of a once over this collection, I really like all the little lighting attributes in the room. A lot of little light add-ons that give these spaces for you to kind of anchor to when you're looking around the space, especially when it's dark. You have these little light up items, the PlayStation symbols, the orb that's kind of sitting at the corner on the left side of the room. A lot of these little details stick out totally and completely at night, and they make it a totally different space. It's always good to kind of keep in mind when or where you're going to be using your collection, how you're going to be using it, where you're going to be sitting. There's a lot of things to think about when you're setting up a collection. I think he's definitely done that in this situation. So definitely thank you to JK for sending this in. I really appreciate it. Awesome collection. Love all the LEDs. It's fantastic. And to finish up today's game room tours, we have a collection that comes in from Bounty Hunter Jester. This dude's been around this channel for a very long period of time, before we had very many subscribers at all. And it's always good to see what a subscriber has done with their collection. I think Bounty Hunter Jester, looking at this photo, has done a great job with a space that is very minimal. This space is super small, but he's done a lot with it. So this first shot of the space just shows coming in the door, what he gets to see. You can definitely see he's got his bed there in the corner. I mean, that's really the main focus of this picture. But I want you to notice some of the little things around the space from this photo. You can see to the lower right there, he has one of his consoles, so that kind of gives you an idea of what else is in this space. And to the left side of the screen, you can see that there is a chair, as well as kind of a desk setup sitting in that corner of the room, which gives you another idea of what's over there. But in the very upper left-hand side, there is this awesome stand here for controllers. If you ever search discart and controller display, you'll come up with a couple videos that cover this specific controller stand, and I can't recommend it any more than I already have in the past. It's fantastic. It'll hold a ton of controllers, and it's like a big tree that you can spin and grab your controllers off of. This is the kind of thing that you would find in, you know, a retail store, but you can definitely get this, and it's affordable enough to grab for most people's game spaces. Now moving to a photo that is looking back at the door that we were just looking in from, you can see why that console was kind of sticking out there. You have a TV stand, which is just a cube style shelf kind of turned on its side there, with a TV on top of it and a nice poster up on the wall. Also kind of a stupid thing, I really like the flooring in this area. This nice wood floor style is always really nice for these spaces, makes it feel really modern and just overall kind of ties it all together. But as you look through this TV stand here, you can see a lot of these little cool storage ideas that help out with the game collection. He's got a few of these cool plastic holders for these modern games in their cases. You can find these on Amazon or wish.com or all sorts of different places that they're available, and they just make it a nice interesting little place. Like, they're like little shelves to put your games into. I've reviewed a few on the channel before, and I always find them quite interesting because they always have these interesting features that you just wouldn't expect for somebody to be adding to one of these things. The one that I'm actually really interested in is the white one on the far right next to the console. He's got his PlayStation 4 games there, all lined up in there. I think the blue and the white look really good together. That might be a really interesting one to get for like PS5 games in the future and have a nice neat little spot to put those guys. Down in the shelf, he's got this game over sign, and the game over sign is, I've seen that in quite a few different people's game collections. It's just a nice little addition there, a nice little light up item that'll kind of light up at nighttime and be another little place to draw your attention to. And then to the right of that, he has a divider in the shelf for a couple different consoles. And I've talked about dividers in the past, but it's a little interesting when it comes to Ikea. They, I will make a video on this stuff, and 3 months later they go out of stock, and then they stop making them entirely. These kinds of things you can actually find on Etsy, especially for Ikea type stuff. You can find people who are making them on Etsy. And of course, shout out to the turtle shell at the kind of the upper left of the TV stand there. I have no idea where he got that, but I immediately wanted to grab one of these as just a nice little piece to place somewhere in the collection. And he's got a double monitor setup hooked to his desk here, and he's got a snowball microphone. I definitely recommend those to people. They do very good in quality. I used one for quite some time. And then to the right side of the desk, you also have another screen there, which is connected to a dock. It looks like it's connected to a Switch dock, so maybe this is the place where he plays a lot of his Switch games, or it's a second dock so that he can either play them here or on the other television there. Actually, I would bet that Switch dock is there because of streaming. It's a lot easier to figure out the wiring situation and hooking it to an Elgato when you have that dock nearby your actual screen. Then you can actually play off of that screen and also stream it to your stream through your computer. And to the right side of that monitor, he has another small shelf there where he has a lot of his amiibo kind of laid out. I think this is a very adult setup. It looks very nice on this kind of darker shelf with a couple retro games that are up above those as well. And of course, when we saw that controller tree there when we first entered the space, it had to have been sitting on something, and that's the left side of where this desk is. He's got this shelf that's dedicated to a bunch of gaming items. I mean, he's got manga from The Legend of Zelda, a bunch of GameCube games, other retro video games, and books and guides, and all sorts of stuff kind of packed into this shelf. It still doesn't look like it's just too much for the shelf either. He's done a good job of kind of dividing up the space. I'm kind of for this idea of laying games on top of each other and then having another set of games going the complete other direction. It kind of divides up the space and makes it more modular in a way. And speaking of going back to that original photo that we were looking at, I totally forgot to talk about all these pop figures that are up there on this kind of floating shelf that's attached back there on the back wall. And it's just another good place to put a bunch of these things. I've seen a lot of people use this kind of space for their big boxes that they were for their special editions or for their extra stuff. So it makes perfect sense that this would be a great place to put some pop figures, especially if you're keeping them in the box. And one last thing about the area with the desk is right above that desk, he has a bunch of pictures kind of mounted and framed and put up on the wall. And I think he's done a great job of kind of using that space up and not making it feel too over encumbered. I didn't quite even notice these when I first looked at the area, and that's a good thing, I think. And holy cow, man, look at the floor. I was talking about the flooring originally. I'm like, this is a really cool wood floor, but you look down there, he's got like a Twilight Princess carpet or something. Where do you get a Twilight Princess carpet, dude? That's awesome. But overall, I think this collection kind of demonstrates that with a small space, you can do a lot of stuff. You can do way more than even this, and we've seen that in previous episodes of this. Make sure to go back and take a look at previous game room tours where you can see even smaller rooms that are just incredible. But this space is being utilized as a bedroom, a place for a desk for streaming, a place for just a general game room to be with tons of games in all of these shelves, as well as an entire entertainment center with a TV and consoles and everything connected. So don't tell me you can't do stuff with your small game space. You can definitely go the extra mile and kind of slowly set up things and grab things to kind of set up your game room and have that extra bonus to your games other than just playing them. So props to Bounty Hunter for kind of bringing that in, showing what you could do with one of these smaller spaces. I always appreciate these smaller spaces. Even if you only have 5 games in your collection, you could have one of the most amazing spaces. So be sure to send that stuff into Discard so we can see awesome collections like this one. So outside of that, I hope everyone got something interesting out of today's game room tours. There's always little bits and pieces in these game rooms that I want to take for my own game collection. I hope there's something in there for you guys as well. Speaking of community, the community in the Discord server is also awesome. We have a bunch of awesome people in there that are always talking about retro and modern gaming, talking about E3 and upcoming events and different things that are happening in gaming, as well as display ideas for game collections. It's just a really cool community. If you're interested in joining the Discord, there's always a link in the description, and that's just a free link for you to click and join the Discord. So come and check it out. If you've never used Discord before, we can always teach you how to use it or what it's for. You can figure it out for yourself. But if you like this video, please leave a like. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe. Outside of that, just have a fantastic day today and collect what you love.
Alice is in love with the Mad Hatter, did you know? The Red Queen got the news yesterday, and now they're running far away. Alice is in love with the Mad Hatter, did you know? They're from two worlds and absolutely mad, but being crazy isn't always bad. They're one step away from reality. They know how to count an infinity. They're the craziest couple in history, and they know